So let us begin today's session with a few prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we are going to discuss the fourth part of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. Today we are going to cover the verses 21 to 27. And the theme for today's session is Watch Your Step. I would like to dedicate today's session to our beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. First, we shall recite the verses and then we shall get into the meanings. Verse 21 and 22. Arjuna Uvacha सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापयमेच्युत यावदेतान् निरीक्षेऽहं योद्धुकामानवस्थितान् कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम् अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see who is present here, who is desirous of fighting, and with whom I must contend in this great battle attempt. Text 23. Yotsyamanavekshe'ham ya etetra samagataha dhartarashtrasya durbuddher yuddhe priyachakirshavaha. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Text 24. Sanjaya Uvacha Evamukto Hrishikesho Gudakeshena Bharata Senayorubhayor Madhye Sthapayitva Rathottamam. Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, being thus addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. Text 25. भीष्मद्रोणः प्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्यैतान् समवेतान् कुरूनिति. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all other chieftains of the world, Hrishikesha, the Lord, said, Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus who are assembled here. Text 26. Tatra pashyat stithan partha pitronata pitamahan acharyan matulan bhratrun putran pautram sakhim statha shvashuran suhrudaschaiva senayorubhayorapi. There Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-law and well-wishers, all present there. Text 27. Tan samikshya sa kaunteya sarvan bandhun avasthitan kripaya paraya vishto vishidan abravit. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. So these are the verses that we are going to understand in today's session. Let's get into the meanings of these verses and their applications. So, the first two verses, Arjuna is requesting Lord Krishna, who was playing the role of his chariot driver, to park the chariot in between the two armies. He wanted to see who all have come to fight against him. He wanted to see who are his contenders in this great battle. And Arjuna is addressing Lord Krishna with a special name, Achyuta, or the infallible one. Let's read about this. The hidden meaning of the address, O infallible. Although Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy, he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. So here, Lord Krishna is addressed as Achyuta, which means the one who never falls down from his position, the infallible one. Now, the difference between the Jivatma and the Paramatma, the difference between us and the Lord is that we are fallible, whereas the Lord is infallible. What is the meaning of this? We come under illusion, but the Lord never comes under illusion. In all circumstances, the Lord is above or transcendental to all kinds of material illusion. That is one implication of the word Achyuta. Another understanding is Lord Krishna never fails in his affection for his devotees. Therefore, he is also called the infallible one who never fails in his affection for the ones who are his surrendered souls. You see, Arjuna was his devotee, and Krishna, being the supreme Lord, the master of the entire existence, he did not mind accepting a position, an inferior position of that of a chariot driver for the sake of his devotee Arjuna. That means for the sake of his devotee who is completely dependent, on him, the Lord can do anything. He never fails in showing his reciprocation with his devotee. So this is a very, very important understanding that we get about the Lord. Actually, the purpose of studying Bhagavad Gita is to revive our dormant love for God. We have now forgotten our relationship with God. And the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to revive our eternal loving relationship with God. When we understand how the Lord deals with his devotees, we get attracted by his wonderful qualities, and that makes us love God. So the Lord is so very merciful towards his devotees. He is ready to take an inferior position, just like he has taken a position of a chariot driver for the sake of his devotee Arjuna. But even though he has accepted the position of a chariot driver for the sake of his devotee, he is still the supreme. His position still remains transcendental or above material calculations. Therefore, he is called Achyuta, one who never falls down from his spiritual position. Now, the next verse, Arjuna is again telling I want to see all those people who have come to fight here, especially who have come to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Arjuna knew very well that the sons of Dhritarashtra are on the side of adharma. They are unrighteous. They made various attempts to stop the war, to avoid the war, but when there was no other option, war became uh, required. It became uh, an option which could not be avoided. So now, after coming on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna wishes to see all those people who have come to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Who are those people? Arjuna wanted to see. From this, what do we know? We have to be careful about who are the obstacles on, or what are the obstacles on our path. So watch your path. You need to know who or what is going to cause troubles to you in achieving your goal. So Arjuna wanted to see that. So estimate before you accelerate, or think before you ink. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come onto the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading persons present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. It was also a fact that he wanted to see them to make an estimate of the strength which he had to face, although he was quite confident of his victory because Krishna was sitting by his side. So here we see Arjuna is teaching us an important lesson. When you're doing anything in life, when you are facing a big test, or when you are trying to achieve something in your life, do not blindly get into the process. First, you need to have an estimate of the amount of time and energy needed to complete the task in hand. For that, a, an introspection and a clear vision about what is happening in front of you, or what is the problem in hand, what is the challenge in hand, has to be made. Now, this is the nature of people who operate in the sattva guna. There are three gunas: sattva guna, rajoguna, tamo guna. Sattva guna means mode of goodness, rajoguna is mode of passion, tamo guna is mode of ignorance. Now, people in sattva guna, they always think before they act. They try to see the circumstances from all possible angles. So they try to make an estimate of the whole thing, and then they act. This is said to be the action of a first class person, one who is operating in sattva guna. Whereas the second class person, who is operating under the influence of rajoguna, or the mode of passion, the passion pushes him to act. Therefore, even before he thinks or makes an estimate of the situation, the drive to act forces him into action. So he does the action, and later he might even regret. That time he might think, oh, I should have first of all understood the whole situation before speaking or before taking an action. We see in our daily lives sometimes an urge comes about in our body and mind, and we just blurt out words or we take an action, and later we realize, oh, I should not have acted in this way, I should not have spoken in this way. So this is the influence of the mode of passion. Whereas a person in the mode of goodness, he doesn't go by the urges, but he first wants to have a clear vision of things, and then he goes about making plans for his action. Now, the third category of people are those who are under the influence of the mode of ignorance, tamasic people. They do not make, they are more of lazy. Neither they want to make an estimate of what is happening, nor are they interested to take the right action towards a given situation. So that is not at all not at all recommended. But the first two categories are just the opposite. First, mode of goodness, a person thinks and then acts. In the mode of passion, person acts and then thinks or regrets. But Arjuna is surely in the mode of goodness. So he first of all wants to have a first-hand experience or a first-hand vision of what is happening, who are those people in front of him whom he is supposed to contend. And that is why he requested Lord Krishna to park the chariot in between the two arms. Now, another important thing that is pointed out here is definitely Arjuna is not going there to make peace with the enemy, because all peacemaking negotiations had already been tried out, and because of the obstinacy of Duryodhana, they failed. So he has definitely come to fight the war, but still he wanted to see the strength of the opposing party. So therefore, estimate before you accelerate. Think and then act. We have to consciously make this as our habit. Otherwise, the urges will push us to act in a certain way, and we will miss out the important thing that we have to do, that is think and then act. Okay, next verse. So after being addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna very promptly drew up the fine chariot in between the two parties. Now here, let us read this interesting part. What is the advantage of having good people around you? What is the advantage of befriending people of good character? Let's read this. In this verse, Arjuna is referred to as Gudakesha. Gudakesha means sleep. Gudaka means sleep, and one who conquers sleep is called Gudakesha. Sleep also means ignorance. So Arjuna conquered both sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Krishna. As a great devotee of Krishna, he could not forget Krishna even for a moment, because that is the nature of a devotee, either in waking or in sleep. A devotee of the Lord can never be free from thinking of Krishna's name, form, quality, and pastimes. Thus, a devotee of Krishna can conquer both sleep and ignorance simply by thinking of Krishna. This is called Krishna consciousness or samadhi. Yes. See, what is the advantage that Arjuna had because of his friendship with Krishna? It is said, even if you want to fight against someone, you have to choose even your enemies wisely. It is said in Sanskrit, a nice saying, the translation of which goes like this. If you want to fight against someone, if at all you want to fight with sandalwood, because when you fight with sandalwood, you get in contact with sandalwood and your body becomes fragrant. But if you if you associate with someone who is not worthy, then what happens? Those unwanted qualities of them will make an impression on our character also. So therefore, choose your friends wisely, it is said. So here Arjuna had the best friend, Krishna. And since he was associated with Krishna, he was thinking of Krishna. Just by this thinking about Krishna, he had conquered both sleep and ignorance. Even in his childhood, Arjuna had conquered his sleep. When Dronacharya, his guru, was teaching him the military science, all the students would be taught in the morning time, but in the night, Arjuna would stay awake when all the other students were fast asleep. Arjuna would stay awake and he was practicing what he had learned from his guru in the daytime. Now that means you can just see Arjuna was so determined, he was so controlled in his senses. So if we want to achieve this kind of a sense control and a self control, it is suggested here that we have to think about Krishna constantly. We have to invest our mind in the Lord by chanting his holy names, by remembering about his qualities. This is what Arjuna had done, and therefore he had become Gudakesha, the conqueror of sleep and ignorance. Next verse. So, in the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all other chieftains of the world, Rishikesha, the Lord, said, just behold, Partha, all the Kurus who are assembled here. So, promptly, Krishna did the job of parking the chariot in between the two armies, and the Lord is referred to here as Rishikesha. Rishika means senses. Rishikesha means the master or the owner of the senses. Now, an important thing to note here is Krishna wanted to expose the weakness of Arjuna. Therefore, wantingly, Krishna parked the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona, who were actually about whom Arjuna had a soft corner in his heart. So Arjuna had a soft corner in his heart about Bhishma and Drona. Therefore, purposefully, Krishna parked the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona just to expose Arjuna's weakness. This is what a good friend or a good guide does. A good friend or a good guide doesn't want us to have even the smallest pinch of weakness. He wants to make sure that we are completely uh, strong in all circumstances. So let's see an interesting thing about this. Relationship brings expectation. As a friend, he wanted to inform Arjuna that because Arjuna was the son of Pritha, the sister of his own father Vasudeva, he had agreed to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Now, what did Krishna mean when he told Arjuna to behold the Kurus? Did Arjuna want to stop there and not fight? Krishna never expected such things from the son of his aunt. The mind of Arjuna was thus predicted by the Lord in friendly joking. So, just behold Partha. This is what the Lord addressed Arjuna. Partha means the son of Pritha. Pritha is another name of Kunti Devi, the mother of Arjuna. So therefore, in the Vedic culture, it is an interesting practice. The great warriors and heroes are addressed in relationship with their mothers. So we see like Lord Rama is referred to as Kausalya Nandana. Krishna is referred as Yashoda Nandana, Devaki Nandana. And here Krishna himself is addressing Arjuna as Partha, means the son of Pritha or Kunti. Now, why did Krishna refer Arjuna like this? First of all, Krishna wanted to make Arjuna understand that you are the son of my aunt, Pritha. Because of that familiarity and because of that relationship, I have now become your chariot driver. And also, uh, because your aunt is such a strong woman, she single-handedly brought up all you five Pandavas nicely without the support of anyone else, I'm expecting that you should also be as strong-hearted as your mother. Hmm? So, but eventually, Arjuna breaks down. We see that in the following verses, when Arjuna, when Arjuna sees Bhishma, Drona, all his worshipable relatives, his seniors against whom he had to fight in this battle, he becomes emotionally overwhelmed. So, in a way, Krishna is actually predicting what would happen to Arjuna in the future. But here, addressing Arjuna with this particular name, Partha, Krishna wants to make understand Arjuna that you should be as a strong hearted person as your own mother, Kunti. So, therefore, every name, every address has got a specific intention. Why Arjuna is referred as Gudakesha in the previous verse, why Krishna is being referred to as Partha in this verse. So they have a very deeper understanding, a very deeper implication with all these different addressals. Okay, so we have concluded. Let us conclude what we discussed today. First of all, we should be clear of the task's necessity and effort needed before you even begin. That's called sattvic way of doing action. We discussed about it. When Arjuna asked Krishna to park the chariot in between the two armies, he actually wanted to see uh, who are the people against whom he should contend. He wanted to see the strength, estimate the strength of his opposing party. Secondly, the Lord's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita is also infallible. Because the Lord is infallible, though his words are infallible, so no revisions are needed. Unlike our university textbooks, which keep getting revised and updated every 5 years or 10 years, the Bhagavad Gita does not need any such revisions and updations because these words are eternal truths, truth spoken by the Lord, infallible as the Lord Himself. Thirdly, choose your friends carefully. Some can elevate you while others drown you. So be very careful. Arjuna was very fortunate. He had a good friend, Krishna, who could guide him properly, because of which Arjuna came out of ignorance. And but there may be some other friends, like you see, Karna befriended Duryodhana, but that costed him a heavy price. Even though Karna was good hearted, but because of his association with Duryodhana, who was evil minded, he was forced into evil actions against his wish. So therefore, be careful while choosing your friends. Each address in the scriptures have a reason behind it. We just now discussed about it. And Lord knows our intention. You see, much before Arjuna spoke up that he was not going to fight the battle, Krishna predicted that Arjuna is going to do that exactly. Krishna is seated in everyone's heart as the witness. So he knows everybody's intentions very nicely. So we might hide our feelings and intentions from anybody in this world, but we cannot hide them from the Lord. Therefore, one learning or one action item from this is, whenever we do any activity, we should always be conscious that the Lord is watching me, and therefore, whether this people of this world may be seeing me or not seeing, that is not important. But the Lord is watching me. Therefore, when I do something, I should act in a way which is pleasing the Lord, by which the Lord will be pleased with me. So that is an interesting learning from today's discussion. So before we proceed to the Q&A, question and answer session, I'm sure a lot of questions might be there based on what we discussed today. Let us do a 2 minutes mantra meditation. We shall be chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This mantra meditation helps us to elevate and expand our consciousness so that we can be tuned in the right frequency to understand the sublime message of the Bhagavad Gita. I request all of you to please join me in this. First, we shall chant the invocation prayer. Please chant along with me. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Now we shall chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Now, important thing is, while we are chanting, pronounce each word distinctly, chant audibly, and each time your mind goes there and here, bring the mind back on the sound. Let's do this for the next 2 minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. I request all of you to please make it a point to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. Make it a part of your daily routine. And to help you with that, we have the members of the Trans Dimensions Club who do the mantra meditation every day online between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Google Meet. You can join them for as long as you want during this time, and it will be a very nice thing if you can experience yourself by doing this mantra meditation with the others. So please make a note of this link. You can join anytime for however long you want between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. every day. July 12th, that is Monday, day after tomorrow, is the world famous Jagannath Rathayatra at Puri. So this is one of the world's largest Rathayatra festival, the cart festival. So we will be discussing the significance of this festival, the tradition and the history behind this in a special session called the Juggernaut. This is an online session which you can be part of on 13th July, Tuesday at 6 p.m. This is organized by the Students Club, that is Trans Dimensions. There will be storytelling, cultural performances, and a special discussion as part of this event. So please mark your calendar and be part of this. You can also inspire your other friends to be part of the session. And coming to Q&A, now if you have any questions or comments based on what we discussed today, please raise your hand and please feel free to make your point or ask your query.
Okay. Sir, I'm Santosh. So I had a small question regarding estimating our task at hand and so forth. So sometimes while making plans for our tasks, the planning itself takes a lot of time uh, that we don't know when to stop planning. So, like in Arjuna's case, I guess he was overwhelmed by seeing the task only. But
Mm.
in general sense, when do we know that our estimation of our strengths and weaknesses and our plans is sufficient to start a task?
Okay. One thing is, we all agree that planning is required, isn't it? Planning, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So planning is important. Whether your plan is going to be fully 100% implemented or not, that is secondary. But having a plan is important. Now, your question is when to know my plan is ready to be implemented, or when should I? Uh, when sometimes we spend so much time in the planning that we don't get into the action part. So, how do we know that? The first thing is uh, being too uh, worried about results is also one cause which makes us afraid of even implementing the plan. If we become too much concerned about, oh, whether this plan will really work or not, whether 100% will I get the results which I'm expecting or not, too much overwhelmed with the results, then you will never be able to take action. So planning is required, but at the same time, you should know that what is the use of a plan if it is not implemented? The plan is meant for implementing, the plan is meant to give you a, a sense of how much action, what is the amount of action that is needed to achieve this task in hand, right? But if you too much become too much analysis, if you keep doing, then what is the use of making a plan itself? So so at this point of time, two things I would like to say. One is make a list of things in hand, prioritize it. Okay, sometimes too much planning, one thing after the other, one thing after the other, we keep doing. But prioritize, set priorities, and start working on the things which are absolutely needed. That is point number one. Point number two is consult someone who can really help you. If that is pushing you into so much confusion and ambiguity, better to consult, just like Arjuna consulted Krishna. So, because some of the loopholes or some of the blind spots which we might not be aware of, somebody can point it out for us, and that can help us. So, ek se bale do. So, better than simply listening to our own mind, to consult somebody external to us who can help us. That's the whole. So, two things: prioritizing, and secondly, consulting. So, hope that answers your question, Sandeep. If not, sorry, Santosh. If not,
Yeah,
please let.
that helps. Yeah, that helps.
Thank you. Anybody else has any other question, any point, comment? Okay, I think we are done for the day. So thank you all for giving your valuable time and being part of today's session. We have had so far we have discussed 27 verses of the first chapter. Wonderful life lessons we have discussed, and some more interesting things coming up, especially when Arjuna next coming week, Arjuna is going to now enter into a state of chaos, a state of internal conflict and confusion. So there are some interesting life lessons that we can derive from those things also. So hoping to see all of you in the next session. And of course, in the Tuesday session, Juggernaut. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.